Kapag all set ka na, head on to irehistro.comelec.gov.ph and start your ready-to-vote journey. For more information, visit coalition.ph. Last 2019 election, marami sa mga kababayan natin ang hindi nakaboto for different reasons. For 2022 election, we are targeting 7 million new registrants. Kasama na rito ang mga Gen Zs, first-time voters, at voters na kailangan mag-apply ng reactivation. Yup, kung hindi nakaboto ng 2 consecutive elections, deactivated na ang rehistro. Di na makakaboto next year. At ngayong nasa gitna tayo ng pandemya, mas malaki ang tsansa na bumaba ang bilang ng botante next year. Pero di ba kapag mahal mo, mahalaga sa'yo? Kung love mo ang Pinas, pahahalagahan mo ang boto mo. Magrehistro para di ka FOMO. Head on to irehistro.comelec.gov.ph and start your ready-to-vote journey. Encourage din natin ang iba na mag-ready-to-vote para sa bayan, para sa kinabukasan. For more information, visit coalition.ph. Yan! Mukhang ready ka na. Pero para sure tayo, remember that your voice counts only if you make your vote count. Register! Sa'yo manggagaling ang first move para sure na makakaboto next year. Head on to irehistro.comelec.gov.ph and start your ready-to-vote journey. Engage! Encourage your family, friends, and lovies to engage in this event na babago sa buhay ng bawat Pilipino. Grow! I-goal natin to grow and reach the 7 million target for new registrants. Let's make history together! Kasi diba the more, the manyer, the merrier! Influence! Social media man yan o neighborhood lang, gamitin ang boses to connect with people. The clock is ticking and let's keep the numbers rolling. Para sa bayan, para sa kinabukasan. Again, I am Regina, inyong virtual gal, na nagpapaalala, ready to vote na! For more information, visit coalition.ph.
Okay, so pagpapasok tayo, kailangan pakita mo na agad yung photocopy ng ID nyo. Ako pumoto ko sarili ko. Alright, so finally tapos na. Naka-register na ako, pero marami akong learnings ngayon. For example, kailangan naka-long bond paper yung mga registration forms ninyo. Tapos, kailangan tandaan nyo na kung ano yung mga distrito nyo. And actually, binigyan ako ng privilege na makapasok sa loob ng office. Skeletal force sila. Ito yung mga magigiting na frontliners po natin sa Comelec. Yan, hi guys! Congratulations, Edward Barber. Edward Barber! Ito seryoso Bakit kailangan pumoto?
We are the youth. We have a chance to change the course of our future. Kaya kung hindi ka bumoto, huwag kang magreklamo.
Okay, tama.
Kaya pang magbago, may magagawa pa tayo. Sumali at makialam para sa ating bayan. Isigaw mo! Langit na Pinas! Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Langit na Pinas! Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Isigaw mo! Langit na Pinas! Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Langit na Pinas! Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Kaya natin to. Langit na Pinas! Langit na Pinas! Tayo magparehistro para makaboto
Hello, J Phoenix. Hello, students from all over the Philippines. And hello to all of us watching live in the Phoenix YouTube channel. And good afternoon to our distinguished guests. Why should I vote? This event is organized by Phoenix together with Makati Business Club, Management Association of the Philippines, and Election 2022 Coalition. All videos played while you guys are coming in are all courtesy of E22 Coalition, including the national anthem sung by Ms. Lea Salonga. Before we start, may I call on Mr. E.J. Kwa Hansen to lead us in prayer.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Dear Almighty and ever-living God, we glorify you and thank you for allowing us this platform to gather today to encourage our countrymen to register and exercise their right to vote in next year's national elections. We ask that you bless our speakers today with inspiration so that they may share the most of their knowledge, heart, and soul on this very important topic. May those of us in attendance also absorb the invaluable lessons that they are sharing, and may you compel us to put into practice what we learned today. We thank you for bringing together this coalition with our partners from Makati Business Club and the Management Association of the Philippines, so that we can jointly share our experience with the unregistered voters in attendance today. We pray that you bless us all, especially the youth, that the objectives of today's webinar may be achieved, that they register and vote. Your blessing will lead to the success of this event as we enact the knowledge that we gain. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim, lupa ng araw ng luwalhatit pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo, aming ligaya na pag may mang-aapi ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon once again. I am Micah Del Carmen and I will be your host for today's event, Why Should I Vote? We are simultaneously broadcast live in the Phoenix official YouTube account. So as we all know, next year is national elections year. We all need to go out and vote. Pero paano ka boboto kung hindi ka pa rehistrado? That's why we're all here. Allow me to call on the chairperson of the J Phoenix Committee and chairman of the board of St. Peter Life Plan and Chapels, Dr. Mildred Bitangcol, to give a brief introduction of the event.
Thank you, Micah. Good afternoon, everyone. This Voters Forum is a special program jointly hosted by the Phoenix, MAP, MBC, and Election 2022 Coalition. The main objective of the program is to inspire you, the youth, as well as others, to register with the Commission of an Election on or before September 30, 2021, to qualify to vote in 2022 elections. Why is it critical for every qualified Filipino to vote in 2022? Bakit po nga ba kailangan bumoto tayo mga Pilipino? With your indulgence, let me speak in Filipino in some sentences bilang parangal sa ating pambansang wika. In 2020, the Asian Development Bank has estimated the poverty incidence of the Philippines at 20% level. That means 21 million Filipinos live in poverty line. Yan po ang laylayan ng ating mga kapwa Pilipino. We have to help those 21 million Filipinos raise their standard of living. Is there hope? Yes, there is hope. Kung tayo ay boboto at sa mga karapatan dapat at tapat maglingkod sa bayan. In January 2012, HSBC projected that the Philippines would become the number 16 economy in the world by 2050. Malayong lakbayin, pero magandang pangarapin at adhikain. That was the objective and independent assessment of the global and reputable bank, HSBC. The Philippines has the potential to become one of the top 20 economies of the world from now, number 34. When that happens, among other things, poverty in the country shall have been elevated and perhaps eradicated. This is possible by first electing leaders with integrity. And the overall quality of life of Filipinos shall greatly improve. When that happens, we will probably belong to the elite group of what is known as the G20 of the top 20 economies of the world. We will gain our rightful place in the global affairs and arena. So, why then is the 2022 election critical to the life of our nation? The leaders that we will elect must be the right leaders to lead the country to the right path, to the right direction, and growth. We have to elect leaders in the mold of, for example, Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, Dr. Mahathir of Malaysia, and Park Chung-hee of Korea, to name a few influential leaders who steer their nations from poverty to prosperity and modernization. In this forum today, we hope to convince you to register as voters and subsequently vote intelligently in 2022. Mahalagang malaman nito ng ating mga kabataan, mga anak natin, pamangkin, at mga mag-aaral. The youth will comprise 40% of voters in 2022. You will play a critical role in shaping the country's future through the leaders you will elect in the election. You will spell the difference. So let's register and vote wisely. The program will begin with formal welcome remarks. So back to you, MC Micah. Thank you very much.
The leaders we will elect need to be the right leaders to help us grow our country. That is such a great reminder, and thank you so much, Dr. Mildred. As I mentioned earlier, our event today was made possible by Phoenix, MAP, and MBC. With that, I would like to call their heads, Phoenix President Attorney Francisco Ed Lim, MAP President Aurelio Gigi Montinola III, and MBC Chairman Edgar Chua for their short messages.
Thank you very much, Micah. Good afternoon, J-Phoenix students, Phoenix members, guests led by COMELEC Commissioner Maria Rowena Bing Guanzon. Welcome to Chris Monsod and other conveners of the Election 22 Coalition. The year 2022 is going to be another historical year for us Filipinos, as we are again given an opportunity by our Constitution to choose who our leaders will be. But to do that, we must first take the first step, register. Let us all unite for the targeted 7 million additional voters in 2022 elections before the deadline of September 30, 2021, as well as inactive voters to reactivate their voting status in the Commission on Elections. The 2022 national elections can be a window of hope to the future of a country rebuilding itself from the global pandemic and the sins of the past. Despite our problems, we still have high aspirations for a sustainable future that creates impactful long-term solutions to our most pressing issues. We cherish this hope, not so much for us elders, but for our children and our children's children. This can only be done or achieved by intelligently exercising our right to vote. Voting is the only right where everyone is equal, and those who fail to register and vote lose the right to choose who the leaders of this country will be. The youth Phoenix students play a vital role here. That is why Phoenix, together with the Makati Business Club, the Management Association of the Philippines, and Election 2022 Coalition, organized this forum to persuade and ask all of you here to register. First-time voters, those with deactivated accounts, and those who want to transfer the registration, you only have until September 30 to do so. Registration will give us the power to choose our next leaders and to shape our future moving forward. I would like to personally thank our distinguished guest speakers, advocates, and influencers for joining us today. My special thanks goes to the Management Association of the Philippines and the Makati Business Club and the staff of the three organizations, as well as their committee members, for putting this very important forum together. I hope you will stay on and finish the webinar, as we have surprises in store for you. Again, thank you and a pleasant afternoon. Mabuhay tayong lahat. Mabuhay ang ating bansa, ang mahal nating Pilipinas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the MAP Board of Governors, I would like to thank Phoenix and the MBC for inviting MAP to be one of the participating organizations for this voter registration forum on, quote, why I should vote, unquote. As some of you may know, MAP has a 5-point program focusing on 5 crises and 5 advocacies. The last one of which is one of the most important. It is social justice. Francis Lim has alluded to it because for the MAP, our primary advocacy for now is voter registration. We feel that's the one area where everybody can be equal and everybody can express their voice on what they feel how the country should run. Voter registration is necessary to ensure that everybody entitled to vote can do so. The accuracy of the voter register is a key element in ensuring that all qualified constituents can enjoy the right to vote. For an election to be successful and democratic, voter education is necessary to enable voters to understand their rights and responsibilities and must be sufficiently knowledgeable and well-informed to cast ballots that are legally valid and to participate meaningfully in the voting process. MAP helps in many ways in both voter education and voter registration. Funding, co-signing key statements, and participating in webinars such as this one. As earlier mentioned, the youth will be making up 40% of the voting population in the national elections of 2022. So it is very important that we encourage all new voters to get into the 7 million target that we are all fighting for. At the same time, it will help for the deactivated voters to get back into the voting registers. So good luck, and we look forward to hearing the wise words of our speakers later on this afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, to all our distinguished guests. I just would like to slightly reframe the question from why should I vote? I'd like to say, why should I register and vote? We say that it is a civic duty and responsibility, and it's important to make sure everyone's voices are heard on election day. One can argue, however, that nothing changes anyway, whether I vote or not, or whoever I vote for. It's a useless exercise as the poor remain poor. The political dynasties lord it over the landscape as they are so entrenched. And all these arguments are valid arguments. But apart from voting being a civic duty and responsibility, it is about hope. It is our way of proving to ourselves and other Filipinos that we have not given up on accountable leadership from government, that we ourselves remain engaged and committed in helping achieve a better Philippines. There are examples where this has happened. At the national level, we had the elections 1986, which overthrew a dictator who finally left following people power. Most recently, the election of young and promising candidates like the mayor in Pasig, as well as other examples scattered all over the country, are very good signs. This gives us hope, and we cannot give up, as this is the only country that we have. It is really up to each one of us to elect the leaders that will put country above self. Anyway, thank you once again to FINEX, MAP, Election 2022 Coalition, to former Commissioner Louis Guia, and to Commissioner Rowena Guanzon. We all hope that after today's sessions, you will all be inspired and invigorated to actually register and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sirs. For today's event, we had invited distinguished guest speakers who will explain the importance of registering so we can go out and vote in 2022. To start off, may I call on the FINEX Liaison to Coalition, Ezekiel Lampa, to introduce our guest of honor.
Good afternoon. Our first speaker is COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon. Commissioner Guanzon has sterling credentials and long list of accomplishments. Attorney Guanzon was a commissioner of the Commission on Audit in 2013. Prior to her appointment as commissioner of the Commission on Elections, she was a litigation lawyer, writer, and a law professor who is well known as an expert in the field of gender equality and laws on violence against women. Commissioner Guanzon has a degree of Master in Public Administration from Harvard University, where she was an Edward Mason Fellow and Class Marshal. She graduated in the top 10 of her class in the University of the Philippines College of Law, where she received a Dean's Medal, being ranked number 6 of her batch. She also has a degree in economics from the University of the Philippines. At 28 years, just like some of you, she was appointed as officer in charge and mayor of the city of Cadiz. In 1988, she was elected mayor of the same city. Commissioner Guanzon taught election law, public officers, and local government in the University of the Philippines College of Law. She is the author of a law book entitled The Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. She also published various articles on similar or related subjects. Her new book, The Anti-Sexual Harassment Act Notes and Cases, was published by the UP Law Center. She is currently writing a textbook on the Local Government Code of the University of the Philippines and the Auditing Code of the Philippine Casebook. In 2013, Commissioner Guanzon received the American Field Service Mabuhay Award for her outstanding work in the government and in the field of law. In June 2014, the University of the Philippines Alumni Association gave her an award for outstanding alumna in gender equality and women empowerment. She also received the outstanding Silimanian Award from Silliman University in August 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Commissioner Rowena Guanzon.
Thanks for inviting me here today. I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage all of you to participate in the voter registration so you can vote in May 2022. I also would like to request your support to encourage your families and neighbors and friends and organize the civic organizations, especially the youth, so that they can register to vote in 2022. This election is going to be the most difficult and different from all other elections. As you know, we are under a pandemic and the economy will be a big issue in the 2022 elections, as well as our healthcare system and the health of all Filipinos. This is an election that will not be like other elections in the past, especially that we will be electing our president, vice president, and senators, and congressmen and congresswomen. It's very important that we all do our share in educating, informing fellow Filipinos on their right to vote and the standards of choosing the right candidates for our country. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. Let me introduce the next speaker. The next speaker is former Commissioner Louis Guia, COMELEC Commissioner. Attorney Guia was a commissioner of the Commission on Elections from 2013 to 2020. Attorney Guia has an illustrious career on election laws. He obtained his Bachelor of Laws and Bachelor of Arts degrees at the University of the Philippines. Prior to his government work, he was the acting executive director of the Legal Network for Truthful Elections, otherwise known as LENTE. He co-founded Lawyers League for Liberty and was an executive committee member of the Consortium on Electoral Reform. He was also engaged as an international election consultant and lecturer on political and campaign finance, election dispute resolution, and election legal framework reform in Libya, Kosovo, Papua New Guinea, Kyrgyzstan, Kenya, among other countries. He was also engaged in private practice of Law from 1995 to 2013. Presently, he is a lecturer at the College of Law of De La Salle University on administrative law, law on public officers, and elections. He recently co-founded a non-profit think tank called Democratic Insights Group, Inc. He is also currently a consultant, lecturer, and trainer on election law, electoral processes and reform in the Philippines and other countries. Attorney Gia is one of the three pillars of Election 2022 coalition together with former COMELEC Commissioner Gus Lagman and former COMELEC Chairman Christian Monsod. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome former COMELEC Commissioner Louis Gia.
Yes. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, to Phoenix, to the Makati Business Club, to the Management Association of the Philippines. Congratulations for organizing this webinar. I find it a success already, having seen more than 700 participants coming in, or who came in through Zoom, and I think there are also other participants who are in the who are in the in Facebook or in YouTube. Okay, so just allow me to look for my presentation. Okay, so I am asked to talk about the process of registration, the philosophy of registration, but let me first start my presentation on the question that was made the title of this webinar. Why should I vote? Why should we vote? And why should we register in the first place? The previous speakers have already, shared with us the reason, why we should vote, how important the 2020 election is. But let me just take the perspective of someone who's a lawyer, whose training is in the law, and look at the basic principles or legal principles that govern elections in general. Okay, all right. So, right to vote is a human right. That is the first thing that we should remember. The right to vote is a human right. So it is as basic as any right that has been identified in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was passed and that was adopted in 1945. Look at Article 21 of the Declaration, and it says that it is the right of every citizen of the country to take part in its government directly or through freely chosen representative. And usually the process of choosing representative is through what we call election. And in the same article, you would find that elections should be governed by the principles of universal and equal suffrage. Pero ano ba yung universal suffrage? Simple. Universal suffrage, ibig sabihin, lahat kasali. No one left behind. Everyone, every qualified voter must be able or must be afforded the right to vote. Now, let us go back to our Constitution. No? We chose to be a democracy. Don't ever think that democracy was imposed on us, that it was thrown on us. We could have chosen an authoritarian state, but we did not. We chose to be a democracy because we declared that in our Constitution, or when our parents, or for some of us who are old enough to have participated in the ratification of the 1987 Constitution, we declared that the sovereign power should reside in the people and all government authority should emanate from us. Tayo ang nagsabi noon, hindi yan dinikta sa atin. So having chosen to be a democracy and to be a republican state, it becomes our moral duty to participate and to participate with utmost discernment in the all opportunities for us to be influencing how our government should be constituted. That is through elections. Pwede naman nating sabihin na, okay, ayaw ko na, tamad na akong bumoto, magrehistro, nakakapagod yan, corny yan. No, pero hindi, pinili natin maging demokrasya. At pag sinabi mong demokrasya, tayo yung may obligasyon para magluklok ng mga mamumuno sa atin. Okay, so I'll go back to that later. Now let's go back to the principles. No, our Constitution says that if you are a Filipino citizen, whether you're here or you're abroad, if you are 18 years of age or over, or when you are a resident of the Philippines for at least 1 year on the day of the election, or where you are voting 6 months before the day of the election, not otherwise disqualified by law, then you can vote. Now, let's examine yung not otherwise disqualified by law. Kasi sabi sa batas natin, no, kailangan yung sinasabi nating proseso ng registration as a voter. Yung konsepto kasi natin, meron tayong tinatawag na active registration system. When we say active registration system, the qualified voters would have to go to COMELEC and apply for registration and be registered after, showing your credential as a qualified voter. In other countries, kasi yung mga ibang bansa, wala eh. Kung minsan, automatic na yung registration. Census data are usually migrated or, are migrated to the registry list. And all that the election management would do would be to verify the list. But what we chose to be our system or our voter registration system is that of an active system where citizens would have to go to COMELEC. So that the reason for that, or the purpose of making that a requirement, is that we want our voters list to be with integrity. Yung mapagkakatiwalaan, yung hindi yung dalawang beses nakalista ang isang tao, because that will not be in accordance, so that will not conform to the basic principle of election, yung one person, one vote. Isang beses ka lang dapat nakalista sa listahan. And we determined that an active registration system based on our context would be the most appropriate system that we can adopt. And again, also, although voting is voluntary, you cannot be held accountable if you do not vote. It is a moral obligation on every one of us. Kasi sabi nga, we chose a democracy. We chose to be a democracy, and therefore, we should be able to stand by that choice and perform our obligation. Pero don't you know that 21 countries in the world makes voting mandatory? Kasi sa kanila, voting is not just a right, it is a legal duty. So much so that if you do not vote, you will be sanctioned. And that is the case in Australia and 20 other countries. But we chose to be a bit more, liberal about it. And therefore, while voting is a choice, we have to remember that it is a moral obligation for us to vote. No, how do you register? So registration is a requirement because we have to undergo that process for us to be able to exercise our right to vote. Okay. Okay, here is the registration process. Okay, wait, I'm having some issues here. Okay. First, you go to COMELEC. yung illustration kanina nila Robbie at ni and one of the endorsers, no? Sabi nila, you have to bring your identification document, government issued ID, or anything that can identify you. No, that is a requirement because COMELEC needs to make sure that you are the person you claim to be. No? So you have to bring that, fill up the forms, and go to the COMELEC offices. The law requires that it should be a personal appearance at the office of the election officer. And you have to supply your biometrics data. A 2013 law tells us that biometrics data is a requirement. And that is the reason why personal appearance is necessary. So people are asking the question as to why can't we have an online registration for at least for new voters. But the reason for that is that we still don't have the technology to get or to supply biometrics data, the one that can fit the system of COMELEC through online or without face-to-face interaction. So that is a requirement. But let me just emphasize this. When you go to the COMELEC, fill up the form, and given the slip, at that point, you are still not a registered voter. You are merely an applicant for registration. So what happens next? Okay, what happens next is that your application for registration is processed. Okay, the one that actually approves your application for registration is a body called the Election Registration Board. Every municipality, every city in the country would have an election registration board. Bigger cities like Manila, Quezon City, and almost all of the cities in the NCR would have more than one election registration board. The election registration board meets 4 times a year, every quarter, to process all applications that were filed 3 months before their month of meeting. They're required to meet April, July, September, October, and January, except 120 days before election. So sila ang nag-a-approve ng applications for registration. And only when your application for registration is approved by the election registration board, are you considered a registered voter. So 4 times a year lang nag-a-approve ang election registration board ng application for registration. So that is our process. Now, so what happens during the processing of the applications? COMELEC should post all the name of the applicants for registration. And then anyone who, let's say may nakita kayo, yan, hindi naman taga rito yan, but siya nagre-register sa atin. You can actually file your objection to the COMELEC office, and that objection will be deliberated by the election registration board when they meet. Okay? And then they will decide, tama ba yung objection or are we going to allow the registration or approve the registration? When there is no objection to the application for registration, usually your registration is approved and you are not required to appear in the meeting of the election registration board. However, when there is an objection to your application for registration as a voter or transfer of registration, then you will have to be called by the election registration board and appear in the meeting of the board. Then, okay, after deliberating on all the applications for registration, the application will the election registration board or the ERB will now approve or disapprove your registration. Now, what happens when the ERB approves your registration? Remember, you filled up a form when you went to register. That form becomes your registration record. Okay? Now, after your registration is approved, the COMELEC will now assign you to a precinct. Now, when we talk about a precinct, that is actually technically not the classroom where you vote. Ang tawag dun sa classroom o kung saan ka bumoboto, polling place. A precinct is actually a unit of territory within a barangay, and it is used to organize the voters in a municipality by precinct, depending on their residence. For instance, let's say all the registered voter in these two streets in let's say in barangay 1, 2, 3 Sampaloc, isang presinto yun. The next two streets might constitute the other precinct. So ganun yun. Precinct is actually a unit of territory. And the way we organize registered voter is to put them in precincts. Assign them in precincts depending on their residence. So ganun yun. And then, of course, the voter registration record would then have to be classified per precinct, compiled, and the compilation of the voter registration records in a precinct will be called the book of voters of that precinct. After that, COMELEC will have to list down the names of those who own their voter registration compiled in the book of voters, and yun yung list of voters. To be considered as a registered voter or a duly registered voter, your name should be on that list. That list is available to political parties. It is posted in the COMELEC offices and in the bulletin board of the municipal and city centers in each municipality. So that is when you become a registered voter and therefore is able to vote. Now, let me end my presentation by, a metaphor that I usually employ whenever I'm asked to talk about why you should vote. To me, I look at election as a job fair. It's really a job fair for those applying for work in government. And we, the voters, are the bosses. We are the employers. Di ba kung may negosyo kayo o may business kayo, you hire people, determine their qualification, determine the offices that they're going to fill up, tingnan nyo yung appropriate qualification dun sa office na i-fill up nila because you want your business to earn, to have profit. In our case, we want our country to, deliver its services to the people as efficiently and as competently as it should. We cannot, hindi pwede natin parang maliitin yung pagpili because para tayong hindi seryoso sa pag-hire ng at magtatrabaho para sa atin. You don't want your country to fail. You don't want your business to fail. And that same logic is the same logic that we should be, that same logic is the one that we should be using in choosing those who are going to serve us. So election to me is a job fair. Marami kang i-hire, and on election day, that is when we decide who among the those who are applying for jobs in the government we are going to choose. Campaign period to me is the interview period. But usually kasi yung interview ay yung campaign, di ba? We listen to the candidates. For a change, I think, in the 2022 election, bakit hindi tayo yung magtanong sa kanila at sila yung sumagot sa gusto nating tanong? Because we are supposed to interview our job applicant. And that is the kind of attitude I think we should be taking in electing or hiring the job applicants to our public office. So with that, I will just, siguro interact with you when you have questions. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Attorney Louis Gia. So again, let me remind everyone what Attorney said. Voting is a choice, but it is also a moral obligation for us to vote. So thank you once again for educating us, especially the new voters and the new registrants, the process of voters registration. So at this point, it can be a surprise for our participants, but we will be giving 30 lucky registered participants 500 pesos worth of cell phone loan. So I think the Phoenix Secretariat already placed the winners. So they just have to show it in the screen. Okay, while we're waiting for the winners, ayan na. While we're waiting for the winners, you may actually also follow coalition.ph on Instagram in case you want to learn more about voters' education, the countdown of the deadline as well. Okay, so now we can see everyone in the Zoom meeting, we can now see the winners of 500 pesos worth of cell phone loan. Okay, congratulations to everyone who won 500 pesos worth of cell phone loan. So if you want, you can screenshot your name, take a selfie with your name just to prove that you won the first round of raffle. Okay, congratulations, everyone. Okay, so again, please wait for the Phoenix Secretariat and they will contact you to claim your prize. Our next speaker is a 22-year-old content creator who went from posting beauty tutorials to social and political commentaries. She believes in using her platform to empower the youth to initiate change in their own little part of the world so we could all wake up to a better one. With this advocacy, she is currently the ambassador for YouTube Creators for Change Philippines and the ambassador for World Vision Philippines Youth and Education. She's also a Google Cyber Peace Champion, motivational speaker, singer, songwriter, and host. Let us all welcome Miss Janina Vela.
Good afternoon, everybody. Magandang hapon po mga pag-asa ng bayan at magandang hapon din po sa mga tagagabay ng pag-asa ng bayan. Thank you so much, Election 2020 Coalition, Finex, Management Association of the Philippines, Makati Business Club. I'm very, very honored to be here representing We the Youth Vote among such esteemed speakers. I'm very excited to learn from everybody. But yes, ako po si Janina Vela. I am currently a second-year college student taking up political science and I'm part of the core team at We the Youth Vote. So naalala ko po so 2016, hindi pa po ako legal bumoto or I wasn't really eligible just yet. But in 2019, I remember when I realized that I was eligible to be a voter in my LGU. I was so excited to register. And at that time, may political dynasty po kami sa city namin for 27 years. And ang sarap talaga sa pakiramdam to be there to, I remember walking into the school where we were gonna vote and just being greeted with smiles because we knew that there was hope. Hope was coming, no? Eventually, nanalo po yung mayor namin. And 2 years later, in 2021, we are reaping the benefits very, very clearly. Sa Senate naman po, first time ko pa rin bumoto sa national. Wala pong nanalo sa mga binoto ko. Let's just be honest, wala pong nanalo. And so the first time voter, medyo discouraging po yun, di ba? But I looked at that experience in 2019 and I said, okay, I look at my city, may pag-asa pa rin. I look at the national elections, marami pang kailangan gawin, but I'm still keeping in mind, may pag-asa pa rin. Pwede pang magbago ang naratibo ng Pilipino. There's so much more that needs to be done and there's so much more that can be done. Pero naisip ko, saan kaya tayo nagkulang? Being part of the Gen Z, saan kaya tayo nagkulang? Sa karapatan ba to? Sa edukasyon? Sa empowerment? Sa bilang? In 2019, 50% of the entire voter population in the Philippines was the youth vote. So that's Gen Z and millennials. However, 10 million of us didn't register or did not vote. Now, if you look around, habang nasa gitna tayo ng pandemya, siguro nakikita natin that we are reaping those benefits or consequences, up to you to decide, because every single decision made by our leaders, tayo, the youth, we will be the ones to reap both the benefits and the consequences of those. And kung bata ka pa, first-time voter ka, you're young, you don't really understand kung ano yung importance of your vote. And what's the importance of choosing a leader. I'll give this example, no? When I started doing these talks, yung loans natin ay nasa 9 trillion. Ngayon po, as I'm doing this 2 years later, we're at 11 trillion. I want to ask you, who do you think is going to be paying for those loans? Who do you think? Which generation do you think will be reaping those consequences? Tayo po yun. Kung hindi tayo, mga anak natin or mga apo natin. And so we have the power to choose if our benefits will outweigh the consequences of the leaders that are in power. So Filipinos deserve better and Filipinos deserve more. And ngayon, yun nga, sa gitna ng pandemya, sobrang taas na po ng social contestation, social unrest. Ang dami po nating mga reklamo and, with the right to complain. We're all dreaming and hoping and we have goals for better governance, for good governance in a better nation. So mangarap po tayo, pero galaw rin tayo. Let's not only stop at dreaming. Yes, accountability is important. Calling it out is important. But I want to challenge you, that as we hope for better leaders, let's also be better citizens. In a democratic nation, fortunately or unfortunately, our leaders are a representation or maybe even a reflection of the people. And so I'm not going to give you these answers, but I want to ask you today, kung tayo ay isang bayan na hindi gumagalaw towards equal rights, ano kaya ang refleksyon nito sa Malacanang? If we're only thinking about what happens within the walls of our own house and not beyond it, ano kaya ang refleksyon nito sa LGUs? You think about these adjectives: selfless, competent, honest, compassion, wise. These are what we dream to see in the seats of power. But I want to tell you today that these attributes are not only exclusive to the people in power. We can hope that our politicians will have this, but let's also have this as a people. Pwede ito sa government, pwede ito sa good politicians, pero pwede rin to be a good citizen. So let's also be selfless. Let's also be competent, honest, compassionate, and wise, and choose to exercise our right to vote and vote wisely. Sorry po, hindi po ako galit. Passionate lang po. I guess that's Gen Z for you, no? I look at our statistics now, and hindi po ako mathematician, no? But correct me if I'm wrong, but the total eligible voters in the Philippines right now is 73 million. However, yung projection ng Comelec is around 61, 62 million. And, regardless of whether we're focused on the 73 million or the 61, 62 million, the Gen Z and millennial count doesn't change. At ano yung count na yun? So imagine 73, 61, 62. Yung count ng Gen Z and millennial vote, the youth vote, is still at 40 million. 40 million young voters can vote next year on May 2022. And that is actually, 57.81%. And so I want to tell you today, and I'll tell you this with a smile, because I'm not mad, only passionate. If you have ever believed that your vote or your voice does not matter, you have never been more wrong. Because we will not reach this number without you. 40 million, sayang lang. Kung makaka 39 million lang tayo or 57.8 million and not reach the full potential of our generation. We won't reach that number without you. That is how important your individual vote is. Because collectively, we can make a difference. And, I want to end with another challenge. Sorry, ang dami kong, halatang YouTuber, ang dami kong challenges. Last challenge. When history books are written, and history books will be written about this time, we're in the middle of a pandemic, yung taal, whatever that may be. What will they write about Gen Z? Will they write na, ito ang generation na mahilig mag-TikTok? Nothing against TikTok. Mahilig po ako mag-TikTok. You can follow me on TikTok if you want. Mag-shameless plug. Hindi. What will they write about their generation? What, and I mentioned kanina, pwede pang magbago yung naratibo natin bilang Pilipino. And we can choose the story we tell our grandkids. We can choose the story that the future generations will be reviewing in their history books about us. Will we be a passive part of history? Will we be an antagonistic part of history? Or will we be the protagonists in the story of the Philippines? Will we be part of the good side? Which side of history do you want to be on? And so we get to choose the story we tell our children. And so let's make it a good one. And so, lastly, I just hope that you remember that voting is not just your right. Hindi lang yun karapatan natin. And, a while ago it was mentioned that voting is our moral obligation. But I want to take that a step further and say that voting is our power. Kapangyarihan natin to. This is our power to choose who represents us, what kind of decisions are made, what kind of service do we actually deserve as Filipinos. Because we're not just choosing leaders, we're not just choosing politicians, we're choosing supposed public servants, people who serve the public. And so let's also be public servants and choose people who will serve the public. So let's vote wisely because it's your power. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janina. I'm such a proud millennial and Gen Z with what you said. I'm sure so many students, so many of our participants are so inspired with what you said. And yes, we will vote for our future in the next 2022 elections. So just a short, do you want to plug a little your YouTube channel? No?
Thank you naman po. Well, of course, please follow first We the Youth Vote kasi lahat ng mga updates about voter registration and voter education, they're there on Instagram, We the Youth Vote, on Facebook as well. Pero syempre, you can follow me also on Instagram and YouTube. It's just Janina Vela all around. And I hope that I will be able to put out educational and informative content as well for the upcoming elections.
Okay, thank you so much, Janina. So now for our next part of our program, we will be giving another 20 lucky registered participants 750 pesos worth of cell phone load. So again, for our PNEX Secretariat, may we know who are these 720 lucky registered participants? Ayan. Okay, so again, for the people in Zoom or the people watching us on YouTube stream, you may take a picture, take a selfie with your name, take a screenshot, and again, wait for the PNEX Secretariat and they will contact you to claim your prize. Okay, now for our next speaker. Our next speaker is a professional basketball player of NLEX Road Warriors in the PBA. He is a 3-time UAAP Juniors champion, 2-time UAAP Juniors Finals MVP, two-time UAAP Juniors Mythical Team Member, one-time FIBA Asia U18 Mythical Team Member, two-time UAAP Seniors Champion, and three-time UAAP Seniors Mythical Team Member. At the 2019 Southeast Asian Games, he also won gold medals as a member of Gilas Pilipinas. He is the first Filipino athlete to join the Jordan brand family. So let us all welcome Mr. Kiefer Ravenna.
Hi guys, this is Kiefer Ravenna of the NLEX Road Warriors. First of all, I would like to thank you for allowing me to be with you guys here to talk about something that's about to happen in our country very, very, very soon. It's not just something that we could put on the side. This is really important and actually very urgent for each and every one of us. This coming May 2022, it will be our elections. And for me, it is very critical for each and every one of us to participate in the elections because we've been facing different challenges here and there. Right now, we probably faced and we are still currently facing the biggest challenge we faced in our lifetime, the pandemic. A lot of people perished, a lot of people lost their loved ones, a lot of people lost their livelihoods, and it's very important to realize the gravity of this situation. We can all say that the pandemic has definitely changed each and every one of us personally and definitely our lives. Even those who survived the pandemic and who are surviving until now, they're still having a hard time to recover. Slowly but surely, they're getting up on their feet, trying to salvage whatever there is to save, and it just gets to show the importance of participating in our upcoming elections because it will give us a chance to elect our government leaders that will possibly help us end this pandemic that we're currently facing. They could help us recover our economy, recover our livelihoods, recover our mental states, and just be back to the happy Filipinos that we are. And again, that's just the gravity of what we're trying to undergo in a few months' time. So it's really important to participate and exercise our right to vote for our government leaders. But before we could vote, we have to be registered. Don't forget to register. For new voters and for the old voters who have invalid registration because of various reasons, it's important to renew our registration. Every vote counts, and I know the pandemic has made registering for the elections a little bit more difficult, a little bit more scary, but it is our duty as citizens to exercise our right to vote. We can find numerous ways if we want to make that change in our lives and in our country. And it's the final day of voting is nearby. We have September 30 is the final day of registration for the elections. We have 34 more days. Next thing we know, we have 2 weeks, and then the registration is closed. So it's important to do it now, not to take our time, but to absolutely have a say in ourselves that I participated in change. I allowed myself and I allowed my country to give ourselves a chance to recover and bounce back. As nearing the final day of registration, which is on September 30, we have 34 more days left. So don't forget to register as soon as you can. Find time to participate in the much needed change that we need. We respect each other's right, and as Filipinos, let's make our votes count. Register and vote wisely, and I hope to see everybody this May 2022. Our future depends on all of us, each and every one of us. Make sure to register, make sure to re-register, and let's all pray together and stay together as one Philippines.
Thank you so much, Kiefer Ravenna. Our final speaker is a singer, actress, and president and CEO of Actor League of Filipino Actors. She is none other than Miss Maria Margarita Agot Isidro.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. I'm truly honored to be one of your speakers today. Anyway, honestly, it is difficult to be writing a message of hope and positivity in the middle of a third hard lockdown brought about by a pandemic that seemingly has no end. So granted that we are not alone dealing with this one cannot feel a tinge of jealousy when other countries are talking about booster shots, and here we are struggling to procure enough vaccines as first jabs. And it's also easy to turn our gaze away from the hardships of others and declare self-care, which is valid. It's a valid option and a much needed one. But feeling also for the plight of those in more dire situations, for many, brings a sense of duty. And this crisis has proved to be a marathon where endurance is tested and only the strong-willed can survive. So paano na nga ba? Mag-e-election pa. Baka nga hindi matuloy yan. So I've heard this so many times. These statements have come up in many conversations I've had. And at times, most of the time actually, it is met with silence or a long, loud sigh. But guys, now more than ever, we really must trudge through the mud that is weighed down mostly by tragic responses of epic proportions by a government that has remained unsympathetic and totally out of touch from the people they swore to serve. And it is quite unthinkable that not only lives are lost, but lives are being robbed, figuratively and literally, of the right to live and work humanely, safely, and free of fear from sickness or death. And so here we are. But I would always say to the ones who say na parang matutuloy ba yan? Matutuloy yan. And immediately I would also ask them, nakarehistro na ba kayo? So as we've seen here and heard here, the youth sector is highly encouraged to register. And most of the time, others see the youth as indifferent. Diba? It's easy to dismiss them that this sector does not understand their value or that they even care at all. On the contrary, I think this sector is more sensitive because they are more vulnerable. They have total grasp of how new media works, as Janela said kanina, and actually the way she was saying things, alam nila how it works. You know what they need from us, medyo older ones, is a lesson in history. To be reminded of what transpired decades before their time. To sift through the information that is readily available, but most of the time, dangerously distorted. So we cannot tell them what to do, but we can always remind them that even if human nature is deeply rooted We can always change the course of human behavior. So I have nephews who are in their 30s and have only just registered for the 2022 elections. Don't ask me why. But now, they didn't need much prodding because as now heads of starter families, they understand that their voice matters. That they have to stand up and be accountable for their future and the future of their families. So now they realize that their voice can actually be agents for change. But the importance of the coming elections is not just directed at those who have responsibilities resting on their shoulders. Rather, it should be everyone's responsibility to show up, to exercise a right where one's worth, my worth, your worth, is equal as the others. Hindi importante kung mas mayaman si congressman kasi isang boto lang siya. Kapareho ng sayo, kapareho ng sakin. Walang discrimination sa pagbasa ng balota. Walang mahirap, walang mayaman. Pero ngayon, kung bibilhin ni congressman ang boto mo, ibebenta mo ba? Kasi hindi lang boto mo ang binenta mo, kundi pati ang boses mo, ang karapatan mo, ang kinabukasan mo, at ng iyong pamilya. Para din sa mga nagsasabi na madalas kong marinig, sino ba naman ako? Yun eh. Mahirap lang ako. Ikaw artista ka kasi, may mga followers ka. May makikinig sa'yo, sa akin walang makikinig. Marami rin na nagsasabi na wala naman mangyayari dyan sa mga eleksyon na yan eh. Pare-pareho lang naman yan eh. But you know what? If we adopt a behavior that is defeatist, na talunan, hindi pa man din nag-uumpisa ang laban, one that has lost hope in ourselves and our nation, then that is exactly what we are going to get. A nation that has lost, a nation that has failed. So it is imperative to not lose hope, to not give away our freedom, our right, our duty. Kaya kapag ikaw ay nagrehistro ngayon at sa 2022, pupunta ka dun sa presinto at bibigyan ka ng balota. Hindi lang papel ang binibigay sa'yo. Ikaw ay binibigyan ng boses. Binibigyan ka ng pagkakataon na piliin ang iyong tadhana sa mga susunod na taon. I believe that, and I truly believe this, that the most powerful act of protest is the one written in your ballot. Hindi lang niyang isang pirasong papel, kundi yan ay pagkilos na kayang magpatupad ng inyong mga pangarap at humugis ng inyong mga kinabukasan. So please register now. We have what? 30-something days to go. And come 2022, please, please, please exercise your right to vote. Maraming salamat po.
Again, just to emphasize what Ms. Agud said, there's no discrimination when we vote, and the most powerful act of protest is the one on our ballot. Thank you so much, Ms. Agud Isidro, for inspiring all of us to go out and vote next year. So again, for our participants, it's raffle time. For our third raffle, we will be giving away 1,000 pesos worth of cell phone load to 10 lucky registered participants. So again, just a reminder as well, please wait for the Phoenix Secretariat and they will be the ones contacting you to claim your prize. So again, where are the 10 lucky registered participants? Okay. So while we're waiting, also, let me emphasize, you may follow coalition.ph on Instagram to be updated with the latest voters education and the countdown for the September 30 deadline. Okay, so now on our screen, at least for Zoom, we have the 10 lucky winners for the 1,000 pesos worth of load. Okay, there you go. So again, take a screenshot, take a selfie with your name, to be sure that your name is there, and when Phoenix contacts you, you have proof. Okay, thank you so much and congratulations to all the winners. Now, let me turn over the speakers to the chairman of PNEX ICT Committee, vice chairman of the MAP ICT Committee, and the president and CEO of Hungry Workhorse Consultancy, Mr. Ray Lupto, for the Q&A.
Thank you, Micah. So it has been really an interesting discussion that we're having. So ako, ang dami kong natututunan from our speakers. All right, so we have Attorney Gia and Agot is joining us as well, and we have Janina. All right, so meron tayong mga questions dito, and I want to summarize many of them. So meron akong question to Attorney Gia. So Attorney Gia is with us. Yan. Yes, sir. So, meron akong tatlong anak, no? So, they want to register, no? Dalawa sa kanila ay Gen Z, no? Para katulad ni Janina, no? And isang millennial, no? So, kaya lang hindi sila maka-register, no? Natatakot sila lumabas, no? Hanggang September 30 na lang ang registration, no? And meron pa tayong ECQ na nangyari, no? So, bakit po ba gano'n? Bakit hanggang September 30 lang? Bakit hindi pwedeng ma-extend ang registration?
Okay, no? Maganda sana kung may COMELEC na mag-i-explain ito. But having come from COMELEC, let me, venture the reason for putting an early deadline to the application for registration. Kasi po yung data ng registration, yan po ay very material sa lahat ng mga susunod na proseso. Lalo ngayon at meron na tayong automated election. Ang number of registered voter is the basis for us to determine how many ballots you will be printing, how many precincts that you are going to cluster and constitute, and kasama dyan, ilang electoral board or yung BEI ang i-organize mo, ilang ballot boxes ang i-procure mo. All these logistical requirements usually start with the finalization of the voters list. Saka ang sistema kasi doon sa napili ng COMELEC, no, yung dati, dapat eksakto yung pwedeng bilangin ng counting machines sa number of voters per precinct, no? So at i-configure mo yun electronically sa sistema para yung inimprenta mong balot saka yung mga pangalan na nandun sa balota ay magmamatch yun dun sa program, dun sa system at para tama yung pagbilang. So, yun yung mga pinaghahandaan ng COMELEC. Kaya nila ina-advance usually ng mas maaga itong proseso ng registration kasi kailangan mong ma-finalize yung data na yun. Kasi yan yung nagiging basihan ng mga susunod na logistical and operational processes that are necessary for an organized, yung medyo lesser yung glitch na pwedeng mangyari sa election. So yun. That's the reason why medyo maaga. Although ang alam ko nung 2016, October 31 ata ang deadline, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So kaya kailangan pala, Attorney Gia, na mag-register na lahat ngayon. So we need to beat the deadline. I will bring my kids to the registration site para ma-register sila. Salamat, Attorney Gia. Janina, nagustuhan ko yung speech mo. So you said that you have the power. You have the power as a generation, Gen Z. So in your role, paano you are an influential social media personality. Yung mga social media personalities ba, ano yung responsibility nyo to promote registering for this election, and what's your responsibility also to inform the voters?
That's a very good question. I think it was a very different road for me because yun nga po, I started in makeup. I started in beauty and suddenly made my own transition. And when we talk about responsibilities kasi of social media influencers, I feel like I cannot speak for them. However, I can speak as a Filipino citizen. And I believe that regardless of your job, social media influencer, corporate, we all still have the right to both be informed and use our whatever platform it is to inform and empower other people. But in terms of social media, I feel like that is a responsibility and a role that the person has to decide for themselves. Syempre, in a perfect world, no, even coming from me, I would love it to have everybody be using the platform the same way I am. But everybody has a different skill set. Everybody has a different calling and purpose. Maybe for some it's as blunt as this, but maybe for some it's fighting for education in private. Maybe it's supporting the right charities in private. Maybe it's having conversations with their siblings and parents and relatives in private. And we cannot look down on those because and I saw a question here, it's how much can we actually do as social media influencers? And the truth is we can't do it all. that's the point. And I am very aware of my constrictions as a social media influencer, and that's why it's so important that the 957 students who are here will continue the work for us, because there are people in your household, in your schools, in your communities that I will never get to talk to, that will never listen to me, but they will listen to you. Because your platform matters pa rin. And so everybody's platform is different, but everybody's platform matters. Thank you.
Oh, all right. So, so we should all do our part. No? Agot, as president of Actor, no? So, your members are from, influential media, no? Composed of film, TV, and stage. No? So, kayo, influential kayo as members. No? So, ano yung ginagawa ng Actor members and the organization? What are you doing as an organization to help promote the voter registration and also vote for the right candidates? No?
Right, thank you. First of all, we make sure that everyone in Actor is registered. Kailangan, we have to practice what you preach, right? So we make sure that everyone is registered and that they have to know the value of actually going to the polls, diba, and exercising their votes. And then second, there is may Actor youth kami. And si Ria Atayde, she's very, very active in, especially yung Ready to Vote. Maano siya, very active siya doon, and she's doing a lot of webinars. She's going around all the avenues, all the media pathways for her to talagang, kumbaga, ikalat yung importance ng registering, especially on malapit na yung deadline. And dito sa Actor, we will be coming up with an art card every day for the next 30 days until the end of the last day of registering, highlighting the importance of everyone to register for the elections, no? And then soon after that, we'll also have a drive naman of an informed choice, diba? Once the elections and the campaign starts, doon naman kailangan. So parang meron siyang twofold, and then actually threefold, because pag malapit na yung election, to actually go out and vote. So now it's the register to vote, and then soon pag nagkampanya na, it's the informed choice. Yung kailangan tama yung iboboto nila, and then come very near the elections, yung to really go out and vote. Kasi some are registered but they're tamad to vote eh. May mga ganon eh. So yun, we will make sure that everyone really exercises their vote.
Oh, great initiatives from Actor, no? Agot.
Thank you.
Yeah, back to you, Attorney Gia. No? So earlier, no, you likened voting an election like choosing for the right candidate for a job. No? So para siyang beauty contest, no, Attorney Gia. No? So kaya lang ang beauty contest di ba, is subject to perception. No? So ang media is a strong influence here. No? So especially social media. No? So ano palagay nyo? How can we have our citizens choose the right candidate for the job, no? Paano tayo magiging objective, no, in choosing our right candidates for the job, no?
Yung metaphor ko kasi parang simple lang eh. Parang ikaw, may negosyo kang restaurant, no? Pag-hire ka ng waiter, ng security guard, ng cook. Eh yung i-hire mong cook, yung marunong magluto. Yung i-hire mong waiter, yung marunong mag-wait. Yung i-hire mong buyer, yung marunong mag-buy. Ibig ko sabihin, parang yun, yung i-hire mong maging presidente, marunong maging presidente. Yung i-hire mong magiging senador, marunong maging senador. So unang-una, dahil boss tayo, nag-hire tayo ng mga manunungkulan sa atin, hindi manunungkulan, but magtatrabaho para sa atin. I think yung term ni Janina kanina, yung public servant. We're hiring public servant. Tama yon. But who are they serving? Us. They should be serving us. So if they are serving us and we are hiring them, di ba logical? Para kang may negosyo, gusto mong kumita, i-hire mo yung taong may competence. At i-hire mo yung tao, ikaw ba boboto ka ng hindi mo mapagkakatiwalaan? Yung pwedeng pagnakawan ka? So I think that metaphor, medyo mas relevant yun kahit sa mga maliliit na negosyo at kahit na mag-recruit ka ng kasambahay mo, pipili ka ba ng isang hindi mo pagkakatiwalaan? Actually, ganun yung election eh. And another thing, sa campaign period, at na-mention mo yun, usually sanay tayong makinig kung ano ang sasabihin ng mga kandidato. Hindi naman ganun yung job application. Di ba yung job application, tayo yung may tanong. Sasagutin ng kandidato, anong nag-a-apply, yung tanong natin kasi alam natin kung ano dapat yung paninilbihan nila. Paano tayo masisi. So, maybe we can, do that for a change, especially for the influencers. Let's capture the narrative of election discourse. Tayo yung magtanong, sila yung sumagot. Huwag nating hayaing sila yung magsabi kung ano yung dapat nating pakinggan. So probably if we have that mindset, napaka-granyan siguro. Masyado nating tinitingnan ang national election. Tama, importante national election. Pero yung local elections, di ba? Di ba mas ramdam ng tao ang governance dahil sa pandemic, yung palpak at yung magaling? Maraming magagaling, marami ding palpak. Bakit hindi ma-translate yon into governance language at electoral issue? At hindi yan gagawin ng mga nag-a-apply sa trabaho. Siyempre, yung nag-a-apply sa trabaho, sasabihin nila magkakaroon sila ng advantage against the other. Tayo dapat ang nagtatanong para malaya tayong magpili. Siguro yung metaphor na yung pwede nating i-translate into maybe better social media campaign, na tayo yung nagdidikta, hindi tayo nakikinig sa kanila. Ano ba pakialam natin kung sino yung tandem na tatakbo, sino yung line-up na papasok sa ganitong partido? Ano ba pakialam natin kung ito tutakbo sa ganito? Wala akong pakialam. Ano ba sa taong bayan yon? Sorry. Usually I feel very strongly about that.
Yes. Well, I can feel you, Attorney Gian. So dapat tayo nagtatanong. That's the point. So hindi dapat tayo ang recipient lang ng campaign promises. This brings us that was a nice segue, Attorney Gia, to Janina again. So there's a question here, Janina, from our audience. By the way, for those viewing us, you can post your questions so we can ask them. So merong question dito, Janina, related do sa sinabi ni Attorney Gia. How are voters going to be able to inform themselves so that they vote properly based on the candidate's qualifications, track record, etc.? Where should they be looking for that information? Yeah, so ano yung perspective mo rito, Janina?
Yeah, a lot of the youth feel like it's rocket science to see who, the background, to do background checks on the candidates. But I want to talk to Gen Z really quick kasi ang galing natin mang-stalk ng mga crush natin. Ang galing! Totoo, di ba? Yung mga favorite nating love teams, yung mga K-drama actors, actresses natin, ang galing natin mang-stalk. Why don't we also use that same skill set to stalk the candidates, the future leaders of our nation? We already have that skill set. And so the way that I do it is I will look at everything. Not just one media outlet ha. Kasi imaginein mo to, may korte, tapos somebody is listening, taking it down. There's a blogger who will write that. Then infographic, those are humans passed on to humans, passed on to humans. So syempre, may konting biasness inside. And that's why I find it important, or I see the importance in looking at multiple perspectives from multiple sectors. I think what we do kasi, and I was very guilty of this, for example, sa Facebook, pag may nakita kong opinion na hindi same sa akin, I want to unfollow, I want to unfriend. But actually, I have chosen now to keep them on my feed. Why? Because I want to widen my perspective with different voices so that I can see the entire horizon and decide for myself what I choose to believe in from multiple voices again. So you already have the skill set. And I think just to help you decide, I have 4 C's that I think of when choosing a candidate. And so the first one I think of is character. Kasi the thing that separates a good politician from a bad politician online when we look at them is not the educational background. It's not the credentials. It's always character, because that will really determine the path of the governance that we will see. Number 2 is competence. Sayang naman po yung karakter kung incompetent naman yung tao, di ba? If we're going to if we're going to elect people who are going to handle our policies, let's elect policy makers. If we're going to be electing people who will lead, let's elect people who have the capabilities to lead, right? Number 3 is compassion. And that for me is very important. Somebody who loves the Philippines, not only the parts of the Philippines they come from. Hindi lang po yung mga hometowns nila. Hindi lang po yung certain percentages or certain people with this certain dialect, pero yung buong Pilipinas. And lastly is communication. So is this person a good communicator? Does this person communicate unity or division? Does this person communicate hope, and does this person rally people together towards a goal? Or does this person do the opposite? So yun po yung 4 na C's ko. That's character, competence, compassion, and communication.
Oh, thank you for that guide and framework, Janina. 4 C's: character, competence, compassion, and communication. All right. So, by the way, we would like to acknowledge in the audience, we have uniformed men in the audience. You may want to comment and or ask questions in the chat. Also, we would like to acknowledge the presence of Chairman Christian Monsod, who's here also in the audience. So, Chairman Monsod may want to say a few words. If you're available, Chairman Monsod. All right, so let's proceed. So Agot, the same question. So how are voters going to be able to inform themselves? So how can voters know the qualifications of the candidates? How can we know the track record of the candidates?
Just to pick up from where Janela said, yung 4 C's, parang ano yun di ba? A diamond has 3 C's naman. It's cut, carrot, and color. So it's really looking for a diamond. It's really looking for a treasure. Parang ganun lang ang naisip ko. No, but seriously, in a climate of disinformation or misinformation, it is so hard to sift through everything that you see or you hear or you read, diba? So me, unang-una, tama yon, character. Ano ba siya? Magalang, ano yon, yung maayos na tao. Unang-una, dapat walang kaso. Another C, dapat walang criminal case or civil case pending. Dapat walang ganon. Because there's so much, you're entrusting your life and your future to this person. So dapat medyo malinis. Kung hindi naman malinis, kailangan, dapat malinis, hindi. Wala, ano yun sa akin, non-negotiable yan. Dapat malinis. Diba? You are entrusting a lot of money, for one. entrusting your future decisions that will affect you and your family and the generations after you. So sa akin, yun, trust, dapat walang kaso. Secondly, to sift through all this information, go to legitimate sources. Diba? Meron naman ganun. Wag lang Facebook post, wag lang porket maraming shares ay totoo na. That's not it doesn't follow pag maraming shares ay legit source yan or tamang information yan. So just be very discriminating and look out. Tama yon. Tama si Janela, lalo na sa mga kabataan, i-stalk nyo. I-stalk nyo talaga yung mga kandidato. And tama rin, sabi rin ni Commissioner na start small dun sa what really affects you, your barangay, your mayor, diba? So if your mayor is affiliated to someone who's medyo hindi maayos, mapapaisip ka talaga eh. So yeah, it's all there. The signs are all there. All we have to do is just really watch out for it.
Ayan, so meron palang tip from Janina and Agot. No? So na-pick up ko rito, i-stalk natin. Let's stalk our candidates. No? So okay lang pala mag-stalking. No? So ayan, gagawin ko yan next time, Agot and Janina. No? Back to you, Attorney Gian. So meron ditong question. No? Ano po ang website para malaman po ang precinct number at location po? No? Meron bang information?
Actually, dati meron yan sa COMELEC. No? I think COMELEC should be able to provide that. Kasi sa ngayon, ang pwede lang talaga pupunta ka and to check it. And that is very, very difficult right now. So I am sure COMELEC is doing something about it to make the verification process online at safe sa mga botante. Mahalaga din 'yon kasi kung minsan yung mga ibang botante natin hindi nakaboto 2 beses, no, na deactivate. So akala nila pwede sila, nagkakaproblema pag election. So it's really important for COMELEC to be providing that facility. At isa lang reminder, no, para sa mga kabataan na yun ang kausap natin ngayon. Yung next year, meron tayong May 9, 2021 national local election. Sa December po, SK and barangay election din naman. So mahalaga talaga yung lalo yung SK, baka naman pwedeng makilahok ang ating mga kabataan. That's also an important one. So it's important really for them to be registered.
Yeah, so we also need to register yung mga kabataan for the SK election. There's another question here para Janina, Agot. No? You mentioned 4Cs. No? So, one set of 4C from Janina and another set of 4C kay Agot. No? Meron dito question. Do you think it's time to include a higher educational attainment to the qualifications of our candidates? No? Janina, what do you think? No?
I think, well, I don't think that we should, I feel like kasi, that's a very good question. I'm gonna pass that first to Miss Agot. Baka madali po ako dito. Sige, Miss Agot, kayo na lang po mauna.
Kasi ngayon, parang ang lang is, can read and write, di ba? Yes. Yun lang, yes. I mean, if that is the standard that we are basing our nominee, candidates. Yeah. Hello, kailangan medyo higher. At least, you're in public service, kailangan may konting public administration. If you're a senator, kailangan may at least knowledge of the laws. Diba? I mean, I think that's basic. Kasi kung ang janitor or like any, diba, even nga mga sales girl, kailangan meron silang educational attainment of what? A few years of college. Tapos ang leader natin, read and write, parang mali. Sa akin mali. Yes, I am really for a higher educational, ano yung tawag doon? Requirement.
Yes. Yeah. Well, gusto ko i-connect sa sinabi ni Attorney Gia, no? Paano kino-compare natin the metaphor, we're hiring for some candidates sa trabaho, no? So, Attorney Gia, di ba sa trabaho meron tayong mga qualifications na kasama ron educational attainment. So you think this is important, Attorney Gia?
Yes, I think it is important dun sa office na kung saan mo sila i-engage o i-hire, di ba? Alangan naman kukuha ka, let's say, gagawa ng mag-audit ng mga trabaho mo kung hindi naman siya marunong ng accounting or auditing. No, that's basic. Pero sa ating sistema kasi, binigay sa taong bayan yung ganong choice. Hindi siya legal qualification. So kung tayo yung pipili, tayo yung magsasabi, ba't ako boboto ng hindi marunong sa isang posisyon na to? So hindi ang dati po nung siguro yung mga unang election code natin, may mga requirements like college graduate, mga ganon. Natanggal yan sa latest constitution natin para ang sinasabi, para maging inclusive yung the right to stand for to stand for election or to participate in election. Pero hindi ibig sabihin na kahit sino pwede. Binigay lang sa mga boboto yung pagpili at pagdesisyon kung ano yung pwede. Kumbaga, yung wisdom na ng mga botante, which makes it very important for us to be really responsible. Kumbaga, pinasa yung burden sa botante para siya yung mag-part. Kasi kahit na PhD yan, kung hindi natin iboboto, hindi rin siya mananalo. So at the end of the day, it's really the choice of the candidate. At least that's choice of the voter. Yun yung philosophy under our constitution. So malaki nga ang burden sa botante to provide that kind of to give that kind of to discharge that kind of responsibility.
So in the end, nasa botante yun, Attorney Gian. So it's up to us. It's our responsibility. Going back to you, Janina. So meron ditong question. What made you so driven to advocate for voters' rights? So you sound so passionate about this, Janina.
Yeah. What made me okay? Well, it's a little bit of a shameful political awakening, kasi do you remember sa 2019 po, may water shortage? And that whole El Nino fiasco, Sierra Madre Mountain Ranges. And sa community ko, nawalan po kami ng tubig for 1 month. And that, so I feel so ashamed because that's the only time that my privilege bubble was popped. Because I come from this position of privilege that I did not see beyond the walls of my house. I was the person that I am talking to when I do that passionate speech. And then I did a talk a few weeks after that, telling that story, and somebody said, jokingly, hindi alam ni Ate Janina na ganito lagi sa probinsya namin. And that broke my heart. Because for me, it was an experience. For other people, it's their everyday. And it was so heartbreaking that I had been living my life with this platform, with this privilege in a bubble. And I think it was that moment that I was able to talk to that person and realize that, okay, this privilege is not for me anymore. This platform is not for me anymore. I have, a roof above my head. I have a family. I have all I can need. And this is not normal for other people. And I think to connect to the question that I skirted kanina, I think that's my only apprehension po kasi, or reservation, is that I am not currently satisfied with the what do you call that? The amount, the accessibility of higher education in our country. And I feel like it might restrict good people from running. And that's my only apprehension with it. Because, connecting to what I was saying, it's a normal thing for me to go to college. But that's a long lost dream for other people. And I couldn't live like that anymore, just thinking about myself. It's really that simple. I couldn't live anymore only working for Janina Vela. It had to be for the Filipino people. And so, answer the question kanina, yes, I do believe it's in the voters' choice, but I hope that if we end up putting that in our constitution, we're also going to work double time, triple time to make higher education accessible also.
Oh, all right. So, Agot, there's a question here. I think you can give some insight here. if you stalk the candidates and learn something about someone, how will you make it easier for others to get this information who are less competent than you are gathering that info? So how do you get that, by stalking, how do you get that information on how competent the candidate is?
A lot of the candidates are parang reappoint. What do you call that? Re-electionists.
Elections.
Sorry, not in the right mind. Re-electionists. So meron na silang kumbaga track record. So dapat tignan nila yung track record, saan sila naka-align, if their values are aligned with yours, kung ano yung mga past ginawa nilang, their works, their speeches, what they stand for, kung ano yung tinutungtungan nila, importante yun eh. 'Di ba? Tama yung wala man higher education, but then you also have to look at their experience as public servants. Malaking, especially now, nagkalabasan na kasi, I think this pandemic has really brought out yung galing at yung hindi galing ng mga politicians who are running, who are planning on running. So yan, it's a good kumbaga litmus test for them, this pandemic, of where they will stand in the next years, or where will they bring the whole population in the next, or the population at least in their area, kung saan nila dadalhin.
All right, so thank you for that, Agot. So I think we are running out of time here. No? So I'll give a chance for our panelists to say your last words. No? So Attorney Gia, no? So marami tayong mga estudyante rito in the audience. No? So ano po ang inyong panawagan? No?
Okay, no, itutuloy ko lang yung aking metaphor, no? Yung employment, yung parang we hire them. Actually, yung pag-hire natin sa kanila, parang may contractual yun 3 years or 6 years kung presidente. Na after 3 years, di ba ina-assess mo kung pwede siyang mag-re-elect? Na-point out ni Agot yung re-election. Yeah. So yun. Ipagpapatuloy pa ba natin siya o pipili tayo ng bago? Nasa power ng botante yon. Kasi siya yung employer ng mga gustong ma-elect. Tayo yung nag-hire. So yun. Accountability yon, because election is also an instrument of accountability. Hindi man yan makasuhan, nakalusot. But ultimately, it's election that would make the people decide kung gusto niya nga yung ginawa. Because tayo yung boss. That's one. And second, yung point ng paano ipaparating yung anumang impormasyon. No? I think that is very important kasi one of the marginalization that certain voters or populations have is being deprived of the right to electoral information. And sometimes we have this tendency to blame, yung mahihirap, yung taga-kwan, pangit ang pagboto nila, hindi tama, hindi intelligent. And I think that's too condescending. The reason for that is that kulang sila ng electoral information. So I think it's very important for us to be working on that. Na let's say yung isang botante na nagbenta ng boto, ang tingin ko doon, nagbenta siya ng boto kasi wala din siyang nakikitang tamang choice. Parehong magnanakaw yung naglalab, di buti na lang yung makukuha ko. That's wrong, but that's their perspective. Who are we to say na hindi siya marunong? Di ho ba kung mayaman ka rin, kung boboto ka, sino ba yung makakatulong sa negosyo ko na magiging presidente o senador? Diba? How can vote buying or vote selling be worse than a tycoon voting for someone who can protect his business? Pareho lang yun, mga kaibigan. Pero ang nadideprive ng karapatan sa electoral information ay yung mga mahihirap. So, beyond the right to vote that we will have, and we ask you to register and vote, is to engage in conversation with others, with so many people, expand, reach out. Kasi ang election, bilangan ng mas marami eh. Kung minsan ang mahirap na sa social media, akala natin sigaw tayo ng sigaw, pero tayo lang nag-uusap eh. Diba? So, yun siguro, we are conscious of the fact that election is also should be decided by the majority. And that is why there is a compulsion for all of us na medyo may commitment to make sure that we get the necessary majority to get the right persons hired in government. So yun lang siguro. So register and vote, but do more if you really want to engage others.
Register and vote and do more. Janina, your last words.
Random lang po, but I just thought about this when we were talking about, having our candidates be running for re-elections and stuff like that. I want to say to anybody here, we don't owe them anything. We don't owe our politicians these things. The service they give, the resources they offer you are not from their pockets, but yours. That's why we pay our taxes. That's why, that's their job. And so I hope that you take that out of your mind, that you have to re-elect them, or that you have to choose this person because you owe them, because you don't. But I really just want to, reiterate, that don't look down on your small conversations. Those can make the biggest of differences. For example, I had this conversation. Sorry, last na po talaga, promise. But I had this conversation with my tito about the city that I was in nung elections 2019. And he asked me who I was voting for. He was voting for the political dynasty at the time, and I was voting for the new candidate. And I asked him, Tito, why are you voting for him? Sabi niya, kasi magkakilala na kami, kasi may connection na kami. And I wanted to ask that because first, it's very important to listen. More than just speak your point. I already knew exactly what I wanted to say. Alam ko na yung mga points ko in my debate. But we need to listen also. Because when you listen, they'll open their hearts to you. If you speak right away, they'll close. They'll never listen to you. So I wanted to listen. I wanted to understand. And when he told me that, I gently said in the most honorable way I could to somebody I did not agree with, I said, Tito, pero paano po yung mga walang connection sa incumbent? Paano po yung hindi kilala ng incumbent? How about them? And I'm very proud to say na lahat ng relatives ko po, they voted for what I believe to be the right candidate. And that was it. It was just that small conversation of being respectful, of listening and understanding that led to a big change in my city. So don't look down on those small conversations. Don't look down on your one vote, on your seemingly small platform, because in the bigger perspective of the entire Philippines and the story of the Philippines, it matters just as much as Miss Agot, Mr. Ray, attorney, and mine. It matters the exact same. So don't look down on that.
All right. So engage in conversations. Agot, your last words, Agot.
Apart from go out and register, because September 30th is the last day of registration, also know that your voting is a sacred duty. Sacred meaning it's really between you, the ballot, your conscience, your how you see your future, how it's going to develop, your children, your families, because that one act will change all of that. And we know for a fact, because we're going through this, diba, with just one simple act. So sacred po yan. Yan po ay mahalaga. Yan po ay kailangan inaalalayan, inaalagaan, at pinagdadasal. Lahat, binibigyan ng importansya. So once you've registered, now is the time to also look out for good candidates. Look out for candidates that will speak to you, your principles, and your values. And then, tama si Janina, just go out and have those small conversations.
All right. So with that, now we end this highly interactive, engaging, and really insightful conversation with you. Thank you, former Commissioner Luis Gian, Janina Vela, and Agot Isidro. Thank you for your insights. Back to you, Micah.
Thank you so much to all our speakers. Personally, I'm so hyped to vote now. I hope that we will have a better future when all of us will vote. Okay, so for the next part of our program is our major raffle. We will be giving away 8 Samsung Galaxy A21 cell phones to the lucky registered participants. So if you see your name on the screen, please, especially if you're in Zoom, please raise your hand if you see your name. So the Phoenix Secretariat will be able to contact you. Wala pang share screen, guys. Don't raise your hand yet. Okay. So let's draw the first lucky winner. Okay. Labang drum roll dyan. Okay, let's pick 8. Ayan. So we have Gwyneth Bianca De Leon, Lani May Acoimo, Erica Janela Mateo, Loverny Abonitalia, Juvel Carias, Eliza May Sobrado, Christine De Apera, and Jerry May Fernandez. So if you are here in the Zoom room, please raise your hand if you see your name in the winners for 8 Samsung Galaxy A21. Okay. So I have a countdown. If you don't raise your hand in 10 seconds, we have to draw again. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Yung mag-raise ng hand, yung nanalo lang ha. Okay. We have to draw again. Sir Jeff, Miss Lynn, do we have to draw again? No?
We're just verifying it, Micah.
Okay, so while we're verifying, Sir Ray, did you know that the E22 coalition actually has a goal? So their goal is to have 7 million new voters, new registrants, and also those people who has to reactivate their voting status. So I hope we can reach that number, the 7 million new voters by the time September 30 comes. Okay. And why again should we vote? Aside from it's a privilege, it's a right, it's for our future. Personally, I want to be a mom one day, and I want to have a better future for my kids and their generation. So this is our chance to be able to do that for them. Okay. And again, follow coalition.ph to be more updated with the election and voting registrations in the next few months, especially until or even after May 2022. And I'll just give you guys snippets from the E22 coalition. So there's a hurdle that remains here. People are increasingly becoming disenchanted by the same politics every election that was obtained, which makes us lose our faith in the value of the power to vote. So if the value of a vote is diminished, then it is more likely the case that some people do not see the value of their registration. But because that we want to have a better future, we want to be able to give our next generation the chance to be better. This is our time to shine and to vote. We need to make every Filipino realize that our vote gives them the greatest privilege and opportunity to participate directly in the business of governance, now more essential than ever. So again, when you vote, it's a personal pledge and commitment to take that first step in shaping our future and our country's future. Okay. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed, we were 900. We peaked at 970 participants in Zoom. And I'm pretty sure there are more people watching us on YouTube. So I would like to congratulate everyone this is the first step of being an educated voter. I'm sure we still have maybe follow-up activities like who should be a great leader to vote, or how should we be more educated. But again, congratulations, it's the first step. It's the first step of being educated in participating in this event. Okay, so Phoenix Secretariat, are you ready?
We will draw 6 winners again, Micah.
Okay, so let's draw 6 more winners of, again, the Samsung Galaxy A21. Again, everyone, if your name is shown in the screen, please raise your hand. Don't raise your hand yet. You didn't win yet. There's no name yet. We're gonna draw, okay. So the people on the screen, Phoebe Kate Reyes, Princess Aubrey Borbe, Therese Marie Flores, Juvel Carias, Shane Cariel Padilla, and Angeline Lumaday. If your name is called and if you can see your name on the screen, please raise your hand in the Zoom, in Zoom. Okay, I think Shane raised her hand. Therese also raised her hand. Phoebe also raised her hand. Okay, how about the others? Si Angeline, si Princess, and si Jovel. Okay, I'll count down again. I'll count down again. If you guys don't raise your hand, you forfeit your phone. Sayang pa naman, ganda-ganda. Galaxy A21. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let's reset for 3 more people. Okay. Yeah, so we have Demi Marie Medina, Aguilar Carla, and Rian Cruzate. Please raise your hand if you are in the Zoom so you may claim your Samsung Galaxy A21. You only raise your hand when you see your name. Don't raise your hand just because. Okay. Demi raised her hand. Is Carla Aguilar here? And Rian Cruzate. No? No. Okay, let's draw one more time. Last 2 winners. Okay. Let's draw the last 2 winners of, again, a Samsung Galaxy A21. So Faith Mabel Anyasco and Sheila May Napolis. Okay, Sheila raised her hand. How about Faith? Is Faith here? Oh, Faith is here. Okay, great job. So we have all 8 winners already. Okay, thank you so much and congratulations to everyone who won again a Samsung Galaxy A21. But guys, did you know we're not yet done with the raffle? Yes, there's one more grand raffle that will happen. So there will be a chance for you to win one of 2 tablets or one of 3 laptops. Simply send your selfie together with the proof of your registration in COMELEC dated from June 1, 2021 to September 30, 2021. So kailangan nakapag-rehistro ka na sa COMELEC between June 1 to September 30 to join and qualify. Again, email your selfie with a validated COMELEC registration to jtmanalo@phoenix.org.ph or adkapunay@phoenix.org.ph. Again, this is for our grand raffle for you to have the chance to win one of 2 tablets or one of 3 laptops. Simply send your selfie together with the proof of registration and COMELEC dated from June 1 to September 30, 2021. And the grand raffle draw is on October 8, 2021, just like the J Phoenix and the Phoenix Facebook pages to see if you've won. Okay, so at this time, we will be presenting the certificate of appreciation to our speakers. May I call on Mr. Jose Jerome R. Pascual III, Chairman of the Phoenix Foundation, to do the honors.
Thank you very much, Micah. At this point, I'd like to present our certificates of appreciation to our speakers. Please allow me to read the citation on the certificates. The Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, the Management Association of the Philippines, and the Makati Business Club present this certificate of appreciation to our speakers, COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon, Attorney Louis Guia, Ms. Janina Vela, and Mr. Kiefer Ravela and Ms. Agot Isidro, in recognition of their generosity in sharing their valuable time, knowledge, and insights during the webinar entitled, Why Should I Vote? Given this 27th day of August 2021 via Zoom, signed by Phoenix President Attorney Francisco Ed Lim, MAP President Aurelio Gigi Montinola III, and MBC Chairman Edgar Ochua. Thank you very much to our speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Jang, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And don't forget to register so we can all go out and vote in May 2022. Thank you again to our speakers and partners, Makati Business Club, Management Association of the Philippines, and Election 2022 Coalition. Once again, I am Micah Del Carmen, signing off. Apologies for that. Before me signing off, may I call on Sir? May I call back Mr. Jose Jerome R. Pascual III, Phoenix Foundation Chairman, for the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Micah. We started off this forum with a question, why should I vote? And I wish to thank our distinguished guests for sharing their thoughts and insights. COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon said that the May 2022 elections will be unlike previous elections and will be the most difficult due to the impact of the COVID pandemic. The issues of health and the economy will be at the forefront, and therefore choosing the right leaders to address these will be critical. Former COMELEC Commissioner Attorney Louis Guia stressed that to vote is a right enshrined in our Constitution and is part of the democratic process. It is also our moral obligation. It is therefore important to ensure the integrity of the electoral process, starting with voter registration up to the time we elect or hire our next set of leaders. Ms. Janina Vela shared her experience, passion, and elation as a Gen Zer of being able to exercise her right to vote and in reaping the benefits of her decision. She rightly said that being able to vote is having the power and opportunity to change the narrative of the Filipino that will impact the current and future generations. And I particularly like the 4 Cs of character, competence, compassion, and communication. Mr. Kiefer Ravena highlighted that we are facing our biggest challenge to life and livelihood, and we need to use this chance to elect the government leaders who will help end the pandemic and lead us to recovery. We have a duty to participate in change and give ourselves the chance to recover and bounce back. And Ms. Agot Isidro emphasized that it is everyone's responsibility to show up and exercise our right and worth as voters. Our voices matter, and we need to be accountable for our future because there is hope. Thank you very much for your perspectives on why I should vote. And at this point, please allow me to offer 2 more reasons. You are all already aware that voting, or suffrage as it is called in our Constitution, is your constitutional right. And for our students and youth, you may want to consider it as a rite of passage or coming of age that allows you to take an active role in deciding the issues that affect you, your family, your community, and your country. Please don't take this right for granted, because by exercising your right to vote, you will help select the nation's next set of leaders and influence the ability of government to enforce and protect your 22 other rights under Article 3, the Bill of Rights of the Constitution. This means safeguarding your rights to life, liberty, property, security, privacy, freedom of speech and expression, access to information, access to justice, due process, and more. This leads me to the second reason. You are voting for more than one person. The coming elections are not only about the president or vice president. You are voting for the people who will lead you and people who will represent you and your interests. From the president to the vice president, to senators and congressmen, to provincial, city, and municipal officials, it is important to make your choice count, because this influences how your city, your province, and the country will be governed, and what the taxes you pay will be used for. By exercising your right to vote, you increase the election chances of officials and legislators who will work for and best represent your needs and interests. National and local leaders who will execute their responsibilities faithfully, and lawmakers who will formulate laws and policies that serve the best interests of the Filipinos. I would like to thank the Election 2022 Coalition, represented today by former COMELEC Commissioner Attorney Louis Guia and former COMELEC Chairman Christian Monsod, and our leading business organizations in the country today for partnering to host this event. The Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, represented by President Francis Ed Lim, the Management Association of the Philippines, represented by President Aurelio Gigi Montinola, and the Makati Business Club, represented by Chairman and my former boss, Edgar Chua. I also wish to thank the project head in charge of putting this forum together, Mr. Kiel Lampa of the Phoenix Good Governance Committee, Mr. Rod Franco, chair of the Phoenix Good Governance Committee, with liaison director Senen Bing Matoto, Dr. Mildred Vitangcol, chair of the Junior Phoenix Committee of the Phoenix Foundation, with liaison trustee Benny Soliven, EJ Jansen, Ray Lugtu, our moderator, and Micah Del Carmen, our master of ceremonies. Of course, the Phoenix, MAP, and MBC secretariats for making all of the background work possible. And all of you, especially our student participants, for the overwhelming response to our invitation and being with us this afternoon. But before I end my closing remarks, let me share with you the origin of the term suffrage. It comes from the Latin word suffragium, meaning a vote or a ballot. In the 4th century, its definition evolved to suffrage, which in Old French meant an intercession or prayer to the Almighty. It was only in the 17th century when the word suffrage regained the earlier meaning of the right to vote. I agree with Janina that the outcome of next year's elections will be a reflection of how Filipinos want to be governed and whether or not Filipinos have a compelling, positive, long-term vision of our nation's future. I personally look forward to a successful exercise of our right of suffrage in May 2022. Otherwise, our country will be in need of a lot of suffrage. The Election 2022 coalition, PNEX, MAP, and MBC are working to ensure Filipino voters will be guided by that compelling, positive vision of our future when they go out to vote, when they go out to the polls next year. And you can expect that we will be holding some voter education events as we approach the elections. But before we can exercise our right of suffrage at the polls, we need to ensure we are able to vote in the first place. So please go and ready to vote. Thank you all very much, and mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Okay, once again, thank you so much, Mr. Jeng Pascual. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today, and don't forget to register so we can all go out and vote in May 2022. Thank you again to our speakers and partners, Makati Business Club, Management Association of the Philippines, and Election 2022 Coalition. Once again, I'm Micah Del Carmen, signing off.
Hi! Sorry for invading your screen. I just feel na marami kayong tanong at iba-iba ang challenges na kinakaharap ninyo sa darating na eleksyon. Carry lang yan, friend! I'm Regina, ang inyong virtual gal, and I'm here to help you sa lahat ng inyong voter registration concerns.